Hello everyone and welcome back to Boater Cook Something. Today we are making a pasta dish. Surprise! I'm Boater, let's cook something. Okay, so today, that's fine, I don't need you yet. So today we are going to be making a sausage pasta dish that you are going to make in just one skillet. There's not going to be a whole lot of things dirtied up with this, just one thing to go. And so, spell component board,
Can you get this off of me, please?
Oh, right, the apron.
Thank you.
Sorry. Spell component board, what are we going to need?
I don't want to be called that anymore.
Oh, okay, what name are you, what do you go by now?
Please call me Constituent Tracker.
Okay, constituent tracker, what are we going to need for today's recipe?
Thanks. We will need 1 pound of Italian sausage, 2.5 cups of water, 2 14.5 ounce cans of diced tomatoes.
The diced tomatoes I got that already have like basil, garlic, oregano in them, like Italian style diced tomatoes, just a little bit of extra seasoning when you're putting this together.
2 cups of tomato sauce.
If you don't have tomato sauce or want a little bit of extra kick to it, you can use pasta sauce. I totally don't have tomato sauce right now, so I am using our abundance of pasta sauce for this. That's totally fine.
Half a cup of Parmesan cheese. 1 pound of pasta.
Ideally, you're going to want to use penne for this, but ziti is what I happen to have in here right now. I am doubling the original recipe that I found because it called for half a box of pasta, and I don't play those games. So we are making a large amount that is suitable for 4 to 6 people or 2 people with a lot of days of leftovers. So let's grab a skillet and let's get started. You're gonna have to forgive me if the dogs get a little rambunctious. One of them had an adventure the other day, so they're not allowed outside unsupervised. So don't mind them being all cute and adorable in the background. Get a skillet. You are going to want a skillet that you can cover. Ideally, that is one with a lid, but because we are making a lot, I had to go with the biggest skillet that I have, and this one does not have a lid. If you're cutting this in half and doing a half portion of it, then you can probably get away with a medium skillet. So I'm gonna do this one right here. What I do have is a splash guard, so I'm gonna take this and just cover it with foil when the time comes. But for now, let's start getting things in the skillet. We're gonna bring this just to medium heat, a little bit of oil in here. That was more than a little bit, but that's okay. It's gonna spread out a bit, and honestly, the first thing that we're doing is just getting the sausage in there. So we'll open this up, drop it in, and we're not looking to fully cook the sausage. The recipe originally called for ground sausage, and you are fine to do that. Instead, I like taking the full sausage, cooking it a little bit around the outsides, and then cutting it up, slicing or dicing or what have you. It feels a little fancier to me, and especially in times like these, I think that's a valuable thing to do, is to just kind of spice up any meal that you're making at home. We are not looking to fully cook the sausage. All we're looking for is just to get them a little bit browned on the outsides, because what we're going to do is to cut them up. And it is easier to cut up sausage when it's not straight up raw and to keep some sort of defined edge. Because I noticed when you try to cut up raw sausage, it just kind of mushes together. I did something similar for the tortellini and sausage bake, grilled them ahead of time, and then cut them in quarters, and then like basically diced the sausage. And I like doing that. Here, I could do that, but instead I've got another way of slicing up the sausage that is just a kind of low effort thing, but I think that it kind of adds to that fanciness. Once you've got them a little bit cooked on the outsides, obviously it's not cooked inside, it's not even cooked on the edge like that, but that's fine. I'm gonna turn the heat down below, and we're going to pull these off to cut them up. They're not quite as hot, so I won't burn my hand quite as much doing so. Basically, we want them to be able to cook in there for most of the point. We're turning that down to low so that these don't get burnt while we're going through and cutting. So let's head to the cutting board next. What you can do when you slice up your sausage is you can just do straight across like that. But what I'm gonna do, just to make it a little bit fancy, is kind of do diagonal cuts. That is very much not cooked on the inside. Maybe give them an extra couple of minutes just to get through to there. Again, I didn't want to pre-cook these on my grill because I did want to keep some of the grease that comes off of them. I don't know, I just kind of like the feel of this diagonal cut that I get. This ends up feeling kind of nice and fancy, you know, once it's actually cooked. Maybe don't have your cutting board hanging halfway off the edge of the counter. When you've got it cut, drop that in. Grab your next one and keep going until you've got these all cut up. Sure enough, these ones that were in the pan a bit longer are cutting a little more easily. Obviously still not cooked in the middle, but that's okay. Actually, as I cut up this last one, I can turn up the heat again on the stove. I'm getting lazy. A couple of those are thicker. You want something a little more thinly cut, but I would show you. But I already moved the GoPro, and it's a little too late because those are cut and ready to go back in. Toss that back into the skillet, and we'll start getting this mixed up. And we're gonna wait for that sausage to cook all the way through. That's why I put this back to a medium-high heat. We want that sausage to be cooked before we move on to the next step. In the meantime, I'm going to replace this with a spoon that we will use for the rest of this process. Not slotted. Hello, spoon. You will be my friend for the rest of the day. Stir this up. Make sure that obviously if you see pink up, flip it so that it's cooking properly on both sides of your sausage chunks. While those are cooking, you can prep the rest of your ingredients. Open up the cans of diced tomatoes, get your tomato sauce measured, get your water ready. Notice that notice that our board today gave us an exact number, an exact amount of the water that we are going to need. And that is because we're going to be using an exact amount here. We're not gonna have excess to strain off. So get your water measured out, get your sauce measured out, get things ready to go because everything is going to go in at once as soon as that is done cooking. God, sausage smells so good when you start cooking it. Okay, those two are all set. We're gonna need to get the 2 cups of that. So we'll do that with this. I think this is the last of our Parmesan. That 1/4 cup of Parmesan is probably just gonna end up being whatever's left, but that's fine, it's pretty close. I think if you really wanted to get fancy, you could use some shredded Parmesan as well. Got grated, and that is still going to do fantastically. Maybe a half and half. All shredded might be a little too much. And I need, for the water, 2 cups of tomato sauce. So I can do that live, so to speak. Of course, granted, tomato sauce rather than the jarred spaghetti sauce is cheaper, but we don't have any tomato sauce in here, and maybe I should because we're possibly gonna do this more. I just need to remember to add that in addition to diced tomatoes, and I didn't, so I'm a derp. That's almost cooked. We're gonna just flip those so that we got pink side down on a couple that are still showing. Those will continue to cook just a little bit as we add the rest of the stuff in. Now that everything's ready, and I'm closing this so I don't hit my head on it, let's go. First, the 2 cans of diced tomatoes. Turn your heat up to medium-high at this point. We're adding a lot of cold stuff. We are gonna wanna bring this back to a boil before we turn it down to simmer. Our 1/2 cup of Parmesan, or basically how much have we got left in this little jar? The answer is 1/2 cup, or just short of it. So that's fine. Toss that in. Now's a good point to mix that up before we add some more. Just to get to the point where it's starting to productively, hey, you big old chunk of Parmesan, just kind of break it up, break it up. Okay, cool. Just to the point where we're starting to try to evenly heat everything rather than just the sausage on the bottom, now that that's properly cooked through. Our 2 cups of tomato sauce, or spaghetti sauce as it were. There's 1. And 2, that'll do. And finally, our 2.5 cups of water. There's 2 1/2. And at this point, you can add the pasta as well. We do want this to come to a boil. At this point, I've just got that up to full heat. Super watery right now, but that is what is going to get absorbed by the pasta. So we want to bring that to a boil. We will add our pasta while we're waiting for that. I can already hear it getting ready there, so that's fine. I wonder if using ziti is going to change the cook time on the pasta as opposed to penne. Well, no time like the now. Get this all properly mixed in. You want all the pasta to be submerged because there's no way for it to absorb water when it's not water around it. Ideally mix that up a little bit too without splashing all over your stove that you just cleaned because you realize you have a close-up camera on it and dear God, it looks awful. Yeah, that pasta all looks nice and submerged. Wait for that to come to a boil and we are going to cover it. So, as I mentioned, for this particular skillet, I do not have a lid. I have a splash guard, but we actually want to make sure that we keep a lot of the steam that's gonna come off of this in. We're going to bring it down to a simmer. Look at that, that's boiling. Look at you. You're about to be really delicious and you already smell like it. So we're gonna drop this on here, right on top. Barely covers my skillet. And a little bit of aluminum foil on top. Careful not to touch the actual skillet. It's a little on the warm side. So is everything coming off of there. All right, cool. Yeah, I can hear it bubbling. That's at a boil. Turn that down to low heat. We're going to let that simmer. You know what? Wrap the foil down around the sides a bit, just so we can keep in that heat and that moisture. Yeah, that feels nice and professional. Now we get to play the waiting game for 15 minutes, and then it's gonna be ready to serve. Time to clean up. Okay, so that's been going for an extra minute because I was on a phone call catching up with someone. This certainly should be done now, so let's remove this foil. And the lid. Oh, that looks really good. Okay. Stir this up just a little bit now that we've got things here, but that looks super cool. Frankly, you could just serve this straight out of the skillet. And I'm going to. If you were the type to, bring it to the table, whatever, bring it to the table in the skillet. Maybe, if I had any Parmesan cheese left at all, put a little bit on top, make it look nice. A little bit of garnish in here. But I would say that that is ready to eat. So let's serve up some and have a bite. Okay. I love this. Like, this came out so good. Grab a bit of pasta, bit of that tomato, piece of that sausage, which again, that diagonal cut comes out looking really nice, looking real fancy. Hot. And permit me to sound a little, I don't know, so full of flavor. It's delicious and I love it. When I originally set out to do 4 more episodes of Butter Cook Something, I had something else planned for episode 11, but I discovered this 2 weeks ago and I needed to share. So that other one will be pushed back until some theoretical season 4. Theoretical, don't hold me to it. In the meantime, everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, give it that old thumbs up, subscribe, follow at facebook.com/buttercooksomething. Support me at Patreon, whole bunch of links down below. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one, and I will see you next week for the finale episode of Butter Cook Something Season 3. 5 years in the making.